think of that?
Well, a nice, neat job.
If there's a next time, it's all yours.
Sir. Just as we thought, Superintendent. Sabotage.
Sabotage, Halliday. Now, what precisely are you police doing to prevent it?
All we can, sir.
Short of taking official action against those people who are responsible.
That isn't a fair statement of the position. Up till now, it hasn't amounted to very much.
Masuto's directing a campaign of destruction against this company.
Do you have any evidence to support that allegation? It should be reported to the governor.
Oh, come off it, Halliday. Masuto's declared war on us. You know that as well as I do. Now, if this goes on, I shall shut down the operation. I shall close up, I promise you.
Look, we all know Masuto wants independence for Kalunga. But I can't see that his cause is advanced by irresponsible sabotage.
Irresponsible sabotage is his cause. Subversion, sabotage, and terror. This is the man that Whitehall, in its wisdom, wants to hand over to.
Politics are beyond my competence.
Preventing sabotage, Superintendent. Is that beyond your competence?
If you're seeing the governor, you can take it up with him.
Yes, I will. Believe me. Meantime, I've issued instructions to Turner here that henceforth my company police will rely entirely on themselves.
As long as they keep within the law.
What law?
Good day, Mr. Baldwin.
Good day.
Good afternoon, Superintendent.
Good afternoon.
Thomas, this is unexpected. How nice to see you.
I hope I'm not intruding.
Well, of course not. You're quite a stranger these days. I'm sorry, James isn't home.
I've just seen your husband.
You have?
As a matter of fact, I'd like a word with Mr. Cameron.
Yes, I think Father's in.
I know the way.
No, Superintendent. He moved to the West Wing.
Of course, I was forgetting.
Come in. Thomas, this is a pleasant surprise. Good to see you.
Hello, Mr. Cameron.
Come along in. Drink?
No, thank you.
No drink. It must be serious.
I'm worried.
Aren't we all? I gather you've discussed this explosion with my son-in-law.
I have. He accused Masuto of sabotage and me of rank incompetence. But that's beside the point. He's talking in terms of a lockout.
News to me.
That's why I came to see you. Suspicion is one thing. Evidence is another. There's no proof that Masuto is involved.
Well, Masuto's never made any secret of his aims. Out-and-out independence and nothing short of it. He's a fighter, Thomas. I've known him for 15 years. A beloved enemy, you could call him.
I may not have known Masuda for as long as you have, but I have been out here for 10 years. Do you honestly believe he blew that dump?
He doesn't square with his present line, or what he says is his line.
Precisely. Now that Whitehall wants to do a deal with him.
It's not beyond Gambi Basuto to pile on the pressure.
You've got to intervene, Mr. Cameron. If your son-in-law shuts down that plant, it'll raise tempers to boiling point.
You forget, I'm no longer chief executive of the Cameron Mining Company.
You're still chairman of the board.
Semi-retired. James is a brilliant and capable young man. I have a lot of confidence in his judgment.
Violence, sabotage, and terror won't be solved by accusations against Masuto, nor by calling in that riffraff of the company police. I'm sorry, Mr. Cameron. It's simply that, as an old policeman, I know the consequences of a shutdown. You've got to intervene.
No, Thomas, I've retired. I've got to give James his head.
And maybe it's time for me to retire and leave Kalunga and his problems to somebody else. You built an industry here, Mr. Cameron. You devoted your life to this colony. If you don't care what happens, why should I?
Thomas, sit down and have a drink with me.
Mr. Cameron, I've got work to do. Somebody's trying to destroy a former property of yours.
Oh, there, McGill. You on this afternoon?
No, I'm not, thank goodness.
Oh, you're lucky. It's the worst shift of the day. Can't stand the heat and dust.
He can't stand anything. The job, the place, the people. What are you doing in Turner's private arm anyway? Why don't you go home?
Same reason as you, Harry boy. They wouldn't have me. Now, come on, Sam. Let's have a cold one this time.
We were thinking of going into town tonight, me and some of the boys. How about you?
No thanks, better count me out. I don't think I could afford it.
Oh. Well, if you're going to be at home later, the situation could improve. Say between 8 and 9.
What's happening between 8 and 9?
Well, for one thing, the sun's going down. It's not going to be so hot then.
Oh, funny, funny.
You're punctual, McGill?
Well, my daddy was a railroad man, sir.
You know there was another incident last night?
Yes, sir. Sure do.
They blew up a fuel dump.
Corrections, sir. I blew up the fuel dump.
You?
Yes, sir. I just did my first job for them.
Well, who? What are you talking about?
Well, you hired me to infiltrate the company police.
Yes, because complaints of their methods had reached me. I don't like strong arms in uniform or out. Or unnecessary brutality.
Well, besides the brutality, Mr. Cameron, they're blowing up your fuel dump.
It's not possible.
Last night, my superior officer asked me if I wanted to make a little extra money. A little illegal money. So I said, okay, if it's not too little. So we took a spin down to the company compound and blew up your fuel dump.
I simply can't accept that.
Well, then maybe you better just pay me now and forget the whole thing.
Who asked you to do this?
Harry Bates. And he brought a gun along with him to make sure I didn't change my mind.
Bates. He's a nobody. He simply takes orders. Who gives them?
Well, I suppose I could find out tonight with a little luck, if you want me to go on.
I do.
Well, thanks for the drink.
McGill, if you have to blow up any more of my property, go easy, will you?
sir.
Everything all right?
Yes, sir, everything's fine.
Any complaints?
No, sir, none that I can think of.
Good. Bates tells me you're settling down very nicely.
Oh, that's very nice of him. Would you care for a beer?
No, thanks. And does your work include dynamiting company property?
Sir?
You deny it?
Yes, sir, I sure do. I don't know what you're talking about.
Right. Because if you were ever to admit it, you'd be in very serious trouble.
Yes, sir, I think I would.
By the way, this envelope's for you. You needn't sign for it.
Was that a letter from home?
Let's call it a morale booster. Satisfactory?
Well, let's say my morale's boosted.
Bates may have some other little jobs for you.
Oh, very good, sir. Look forward to doing them.
Fine. Good night.
Good night, sir.
In a few moments, Miguel, if you'll just look outside, you'll see something rather interesting.
Don't move, Mr. McGill.
Oh, what's going on?
That.
Well, how was I supposed to do that?
Nobody said you did. No, Mr. McGill.
Well, Thomas?
The number 3 fuel lamp, sir. A blast and fire destroyed the sheds as well.
Are there any casualties?
No one killed, but half a dozen of the colored hands have been taken to hospital. 2 of them are pretty bad.
This is terrible. Oh, I wish James was here.
He's still over there, inspecting the damage.
Half a dozen men in hospital this time. Next, who knows? Only one knew what was behind it.
Lost.
James won't be pleased to see me.
Isn't it time you two got together? This bickering is something we can't afford in the circumstances.
That's a shocking mess. You've no idea. Police running in all directions. Not a suspect in sight, let alone an arrest. Not likely to be.
And what do the company police report, Mr. Baldwin?
Well, there aren't enough of them to make up for the inefficiency of Her Majesty's forces.
You must excuse me.
Just a minute, Halliday. Now, this sabotage is endangering lives as well as property. I think you should know I'm putting an emergency resolution to our board of directors tomorrow. A resolution calling for the immediate closure of 3 sites.
James, this is...
For one thing, thanks to terrorist activity, we're faced with an acute fuel shortage.
We can get more oil if necessary.
So that Masuto can blow it up again. No, thanks, I've had enough.
And when you close down the sites, what happens to the men?
Well, they'll be laid off as a temporary measure. You don't seriously expect me to keep 1,100 men sitting around doing nothing?
If you put 1,100 men out of work, you'll have a full-scale riot on your hands.
Then it'll be your duty to control it.
It's also my job to try and prevent it.
I agree. Control it. Stop Masuto. Stop his terror. Then we'll all be able to resume work.
I assume that is a message for the governor.
Yes, Halliday. I'm sorry, darling. That wasn't very pleasant.
I do see your point. But I see Thomas's, too. 1,100 men out of work. Isn't there any other way?
Well, certainly there's another way. You simply stand and deliver. Hand over the company, the colony, the whole shoot to Masuto and his terrorists.
James, the native terrorists don't exist.
What's that?
I don't see eye to eye with Masuto. I don't even trust him. But that's not the point. The men who fired the fuel dumps last night were white.
Rubbish.
Men in your company police. Turner's men.
Father, honestly.
I can prove it.
How?
Father, won't you ever let go?
I hired someone to investigate the sabotage.
You did this without consulting me? Behind my back?
Because I knew you wouldn't listen to me. I've tried to have this out with you before, James. I don't like Turner, and I don't like the way he runs his police.
Turner's a good man for the job. Did you say anything about this to Halliday?
I did not. Naturally, you're the first and only person to know. I gave my name to the company. Its reputation means a great deal to me. James, I shall take the chair at your meeting tomorrow. I consider the board should make their decision on all the facts.
Naturally. By the way, who is this super sleuth of yours?
An American, McGill.
Mr. McGill, let me introduce myself. I am Gombe Masuto.
Well, I think you know me. I'm the guy with the gun in his back.
I owe you an apology, but would you have responded to a polite invitation?
Well, I can't say because I didn't get one.
Bastola? Drink?
Yeah, Scotch on the rocks would be great.
The Encyclopedia Britannica will tell you that the favorite beverage of the tribe to which I belong is the blood of cattle mixed with milk. Personally, I prefer a dry martini. Cheers.
Cheers. Now, what do you want, Masuto?
I want what Africans want all over this continent. Our freedom. Equal opportunity.
And for a start, you want the Cameron Mining Company.
Well, that is a side issue.
Well, it's not to Baldwin or to Cameron. Looks to me like you're being handed this colony on a silver platter anyway, so what's the problem?
The Camerons and the Baldwins. Do you really believe that they'll give up so easily? The good intentions of the British government are one thing. The Camerons and the Baldwins have dug in, and they intend to stay.
Is that why you brought me here at gunpoint, to tell me that?
You left American intelligence accused of something very close to treason. Was it true? Well, you don't reply. Well, I'm in the same position. I know the truth, but I can't speak out. No one would believe it coming from me. I'm not responsible for the sabotage at the mines. It isn't in my interest. A crisis in the colony is the last thing I want, with independence talks going on. In fact, the trouble is not the work of Africans at all, as you well know.
Do I?
Garfield Cameron employed you to find out what's been going on.
How'd I do?
Well, tonight you managed to establish that the sabotage is being run by Major Turner.
How many eyes and ears do you have around here?
About 50,000. The entire African population. They tell me everything. For instance, you know that Bates gets his orders from Turner. Who do you think gives Turner his orders?
Let's don't play games now. Just tell me who.
James Baldwin.
Baldwin? Blowing up his own property? He's not that crazy.
Well, he's crazy enough to create violence and unrest and blame it on me. He wants to delay independence by discrediting me.
Look, even if all this is true, why are you telling me?
Garfield Cameron is no friend of mine, but he's honest. He's grown with Kalunga. I want you to go and tell him what I've just told you.
What, that his son-in-law's behind all the sabotage? Why don't you tell him yourself?
Well, he'll believe it coming from you. He employed you to find the answers, didn't he?
Not that answer.
Behind me, pushing me, are others more militant, urging me to go faster by any method. I can't be seen with Cameron. They'd think I was selling out. So I want you to go to Cameron and tell him the truth about the sabotage. And tell him this, that if work stops and 1,100 men and their families go hungry, I can't be responsible for what happens. There'll be chaos. I shall topple, and Kalunga will go with me. And so will Cameron's mines.
How long's McGill been with the company?
Oh, not long. A couple of weeks or so. He heard about the job through Bates. Thanks.
You engaged him?
That's right. He's a good man, McGill. Sort we need. Took part in Operation Fuel Dump last night.
Know anything about him?
He's from Texas. Told me he served with the mercenaries in the Congo, and there's some reason why he can't go home to America.
He told you that?
These things get around.
Did you check his story?
Oh, let's face it, James, we've got all sorts here. Bates ought to know. He thinks he's all right.
I didn't ask you for Bates's opinion. Did you check his story?
Well, no, I didn't think it was necessary.
It all adds up. You're a fool, Turner. McGill's an investigator working for my father-in-law.
James?
Are you sure about this?
Of course I'm sure.
Then why did he go out on the sabotage job?
Well, don't ask me. I've never interfered with your recruiting methods, Turner. I thought you had a little elementary common sense.
You knew the risk we ran. It was your idea.
That's right. Blame me. Blame me for your monumental clatter.
If you're psychic, I'm not.
All right. Now, look, Turner. It's just possible I can handle my father-in-law. But if McGill opens his mouth to anyone else, we're through. Finished.
Then what do you suggest?
He's got to be kept quiet.
How?
Well, you're the specialist.
Well, nobody's safe from the native terrorists nowadays. But we better keep off guns. The natives don't carry them.
Or aren't supposed to. But spare me the details. All I know is McGill must go. For my money, Bates is our man.
Yes, Mr. Baldwin.
Right, then you better get on with it.
Good night, Mrs. Baldwin.
Good night, Turner.
Darling, we must have disturbed you.
No, it wasn't that. I wondered if you were ever coming to bed. You need the sleep, darling.
Yes, I know.
I wasn't eavesdropping, but were you quarreling with Turner?
Now, what did you overhear?
I came in at the tail end. Nothing except that Turner has staff problems. Must he bother you with them at this time of night?
Darling, we do have a crisis on our hands, and Turner's very much in the middle of it. Let's get some sleep, shall we?
James?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm prejudiced.
What about?
Turner.
Oh, darling, please. Just about as much as I can take for one evening.
It's just that sometimes I think he strings you along.
Strings me along?
I mean, he plays up the trouble with the Africans. There are people who are, well, born policemen.
Who have you been talking to, your father? Our old pal Thomas. He's a policeman, all right.
No, I haven't been talking to anybody.
Darling, we're not living on a plantation in the 19th century.
I can see Turner cracking the whip.
You really got it in for him, haven't you?
What was the trouble about McGill?
McGill's been playing a very dangerous game. The sooner he's out of Kalunga, the happier I shall be. For his own sake and mine.
Great!
Who are you?
McGill!
What's happened?
I want to see you, Baldwin.
What's the matter? What's happening?
I'll deal with this. You go back to bed, darling, please.
Got a message from Mizuto and one from me.
I don't believe it. My own son-in-law directing a campaign of sabotage against the company? It's preposterous.
Well, thank you for that, Garfield.
I mean, what evidence did he produce?
Not much. Except he has about 1,000 eyes and ears all over Kalunga, and I believe him.
So what it boils down to is it's Masuto's word against mine.
You think this is my imagination, Buster?
It's Masuto again.
No, it's not Masuto. Masuto wanted me alive to deliver this message. These people are killers.
So if I'm destroying my own property as an excuse to close down operations, a little thing like killing you off wouldn't upset my conscience?
That's right.
You're insane.
Bates was in on it, too.
Or maybe Bates.
Well, Bates works for James.
Perhaps for Masuto, too. Perhaps Bates found out that you were working for me and got desperate.
Oh, how'd he find out? Who told him?
I don't know. I didn't mention it to anybody except...
Except him, right?
I don't propose to take this charge seriously. I'm surprised, Garfield, that you do.
He has a right to be angry. An attempt has been made on his life.
This man, upon whose unsupported word you place so much reliance, has by his own admission taken part in sabotage.
In order to get evidence against Bates and Turner.
That's what he says. Why should we believe him? Besides, he's a friend of Masuto's.
I met him once with a gun in my back, if you call that friendly.
I think Masuto saw a chance of using your man against me to create a rift between us at a crucial moment. I think Masuto offered McGill money to tell you this trumped-up story. And McGill sold out. And not for the first time, either.
I don't understand.
I've been doing some investigation myself. The man's a renegade. He's a former agent for American intelligence who sold out. Betrayed his country and his organization. All right, McGill. I suppose I could hand you over to the police for your part in the sabotage. I don't intend to do so. It wouldn't look good for us whites out here.
I'll send you a check.
You'd better get out of Kalunga before I change my mind.
Okay. But if anybody so much as touches me around here, I'm coming back for you, Jimmy, baby!
You all right?
Yes. It's cold. Shall I get some more? Got the board meeting this morning.
Yes, I know, James. I've not forgotten. I shan't be there.
You said you'd take the chair.
It hardly seems necessary after what's just transpired. I rely on you to take whatever steps you consider necessary. I'm too old for this. As Patricia said, the time has come to let go. Garfield Cameron here.
It's Halliday, sir.
Oh, Halliday, I'm glad you called. I've got something to tell you.
Yes, sir, of course. But excuse me, is Mr. Baldwin with you? I've got an urgent message for him.
No, I expect he's on his way to the board meeting. That's why I wanted to warn you.
It was to let him know that we've just found one of your company officers dead. Murdered.
What's that? Who?
Bates. You will inform Mr. Baldwin as soon as possible.
Indeed, I will.
Thank you.
And Halliday.
Yes?
I wanted to warn you, the Cameron Mining Company is closing down.
Chatuma Pangona! Carito! Cara Watasi Walatito! Juanito! Nari! 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 Tawatuma Pana! Ano ko biwa sa babu? Adewa! Natura! Alawana! Defu! Ano ko biwa? Natuasi!
Uh-huh.
May I come in, Father?
Of course.
It's terrible waiting, not knowing what's going on out there.
James is over at the compound, is he?
Yes, they were putting the closure notices up this morning. He didn't say anything, but I could see he was expecting trouble.
Well, if you throw 1,000 men onto the bread line.
You agreed with him, didn't you? You do think he's right to shut down?
It was all against my own instincts, Patricia. But, in the circumstances, yes.
Thomas Halliday was against it, too.
Thomas and I belong to another generation. I was never faced with this rampant nationalism. New men, new situations, new means of handling them.
I backed Thomas against Turner every day of the week. The other night I came in on the most fearful row between James and him.
And Turner? Well, if it had been Halliday, it wouldn't surprise me.
All to do with a couple of Turner's police, McGill and Bates.
McGill and Bates? Patricia, when did this happen?
Last night, before that man McGill charged in and began shouting. Why did McGill come here this morning?
Because someone tried to kill him.
To kill him?
He said it was Bates. James denied it. And now Bates is dead.
Father, what are you getting at? You sound as if you were accusing James of something terrible. I know James is ambitious, a bit ruthless, but... Oh, no.
Patricia, what is it?
What James and Turner were arguing about. It makes sense now. But... no.
What did you hear?
James said McGill has to go.
Before the attempt to kill him.
And then Turner said yes. And then James said Bates is our man.
Okay, I accept what you say. But this morning you believed Baldwin, and now you're believing me.
Will you please listen to me?
I have a plane to catch, man.
I wouldn't come to you if I could think of anything else, but I need cooperation if we are to avoid complete and utter disaster.
Why don't you ask your loving son-in-law?
I have a message from Masuto. I want you to deliver it.
What do you people think I am around here, the mailman?
I want you to tell him we'll resume work as soon as I can put things right. Just a few days. Give him my word on that, provided he'll use his influence to stop the riot.
Baldwin will never go for that.
He'll have no choice. Between us, my daughter and I hold a majority of the shares. I'm going to the board.
You mean you can take over again?
Yes.
Well, excuse me for asking, but I know that Masuto's going to ask me. Now, why should he believe that your daughter will vote with you?
She overheard James making certain arrangements about you.
It's a very delicate way of putting it. Look, man, this thing has just gone too far. The whole thing's going to blow up, and it's none of my business. It's not my company. It's not my quarrel. It's not my country.
Mr. McGill, you are now the one man who may be able to stop bloodshed.
I warned you, Mr. Baldwin. I said there'd be trouble once those notices went up.
You telling me how to run my own company? It may interest you to know, Halliday, it wasn't my personal decision. The board approved it unanimously.
Well, now the board has made it. I'll draft in all the men I can spare.
Your please. Her Majesty's government's integrated police. What use are they? Half of them are disaffected already. No, Halliday. I must have permission to use these.
You won't get it from me. That's only adding fuel to the flames.
It's not really the happiest comparison.
For heaven's sake, Baldwin. Your workers aren't an army. They don't carry guns. They want their jobs. Talk to them. Compromise with them.
We must have the means to protect this property, and that means rifles.
Which means permission from the governor.
I'll get that permission. I'll go and see him at once.
And I'll go with you.
I agree with Superintendent Halliday. Issuing guns to your police is an extremely grave step.
Grave? Isn't the situation grave?
I've informed Mr. Baldwin that I'm sending every available man down to the compound.
And I have informed the superintendent that it isn't enough. There's no telling what his colored police will get up to. They're in sympathy with Masuto to a man.
Gentlemen, we must view this situation in its wider context. The government in London is evaluating the whole question of Kalunga's independence.
I wish you could see for yourself what's going on down at that site. Independence for those savages.
If I declare a state of emergency, I shall have Whitehall breathing down my neck, hard.
They'll breathe harder when there's a full-scale massacre here. I tell you, the Africans are out of control.
Once the shooting begins, that's the end.
Unless we're given means to control this mob, there'll be nothing left to hand over to Masuto or anyone else.
If only Cameron had made his decision earlier, if only he'd stood his ground, this whole disaster could have been averted.
But surely there's still time.
I don't know. This is an impatient generation. We'll never win our freedom with moderation, they say. Let us have blood. Because after the blood comes freedom.
Look, now, couldn't you talk to them? Surely they'll listen to you.
You overestimate my powers of persuasion.
I don't think so.
It's easy to stand there and say, let's stop the riot. But I'm not a magician.
Neither's Garfield Cameron.
Gavana Matangaza Hari Yahatari.
Asanta. The governor has declared a state of emergency. This means that Baldwin will equip his men with guns.
He'll use them, too.
Let's go.
Twandoni! Mtsemboni!
Turner? Yes, sir. Right. I know what to do. All right, Smith, let's have the men in here.
It's happened. They're marching on the mine.
Send a message to Masuto. Surely he can stop them.
If anyone can save the situation, it's you.
Let's المشكلة على كردي بملاكة.
All right, that's enough. Come on, boys, up to the wire.
I made my decision with a great deal of reluctance, James.
I'm sure it was the right decision, sir. Kalunga isn't ready for independence yet.
We are not the policy makers. It's not for either you or me to say. The government knows my views.
Well, we're the men on the spot. What do they know or care in London?
Have you heard from Turner? Has he got the situation down there under control?
Turner's a good man, sir. He'll handle it.
Excuse me. It's for you.
Thank you. Baldwin here. Darling, this is simply terrible.
Murderer.
No.
Murderer! Murderer!